start whenever you want.
Want to take the reins? Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, not feeling
Not
it.
feeling it.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of NESN Around, the podcast that's about everything and nothing at the same time. I think that's what we're going with. We're going to continue to go with that. I'm Ricky Doyle, joined here by Mike Cole, as always. My good pal, my good friend, my good colleague, whatever you want to call him.
Oh, that all sounds good.
Good guy all around.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to dive into several topics, as we typically do. A lot to get to. Some interesting storylines that I know we're dying to just roll up the sleeves and just throw into a chicken wing. So we'll do that, but first we're going to start off, as we always do, with the predictions. Yep. Make a prediction every week. Sometimes we don't even know going into the show what that prediction is going to be. It just kind of comes to us.
Kind of like this week.
We were on a good roll there for a little bit, though.
Yeah.
We had a stretch where we were pretty close to knocking it out of the park every week. This one, not so much. I forget what yours was. What was yours?
Mine was, I realized this as it was coming out of my mouth, I said that Kevin Durant would be the first player in the NBA Finals to 100 points, which is still it's still possible.
Right. Yeah.
It was just not very good planning on my part.
You didn't look at the schedule too much.
No, but he's got 76 points, or excuse me, jeez, can't do math. 71 points through 2 games. So
yeah, he's
well
going
on his way.
off.
He
he's
will
playing
probably.
real well.
I think when it's all said and done, that's going to be correct. It's probably just a dumb job by me of not really planning it out.
Yeah, I still like it, though. We'll get into the Warriors in a minute here, but I actually also had an NBA Finals-centric prediction. Mine's way off, though. I was completely wrong on mine. I said Draymond Green was going to kick up a fuss, cause some issues, as his reputation precedes him. That hasn't been the case. No. Been a model citizen.
Model citizen,
yeah, nicest guy in the world. He did have he got a little testy with the reporter, but that was only because the reporter basically
The reporter had the same premonition that you did.
Yeah, so basically the reporter asked him, how are you rating this all in? And he said, why does everybody peg me as this troubled guy, blah, blah, blah. But long story short, my prediction was wrong, as they typically are.
Which is just an awful response on Draymond Green's part. To
get testy?
Yeah, I get it to an extent, but
yeah.
Hey, guy.
That question was kind of...
There's a lot of bad questions so far in the NBA
It has.
Finals.
There's been a lot of terrible questions. That one, though, I mean, I understand the guy's rationale, but I could also understand from Draymond Green's standpoint where it's like...
It wasn't phrased right.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a wording issue. But as I said, we'd get into the finals here because that's obviously the biggest story going on in sports, really.
It's debatable.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
for the
most part.
It is. We're a couple hockey guys.
For better or worse, though, I think is kind of what we'll get into.
But I want to talk about the Warriors in particular and how this team's on another planet right now. Clearly, taking the 2-0 series lead as of this recording. I just want to. What do you make of this dominance in general? I mean, because now the whole thing, the fact that it hasn't been a competitive series at all, and potentially a lot could change going back to Cleveland for Game 3, but now everybody's talking sweep, and then you start really breaking down the dominance of this Warriors team, and whether it's good for the NBA in general. I mean,
there's a lot to get into here, just because there's so many different elements to it. I just can't see the series going more than 5 games after watching the first 2 games, because I thought Cleveland, especially in Game 2, came out throwing some punches. Not literally, but they played all right. That was a close game into the third quarter. And then Golden State just found its next gear and just left Cleveland in the dust. I think you start seeing LeBron. I think he got tired. It's just he has to do a ton. He has to. That he's their best chance is him getting to the rim, but that tires you out. It's just they don't have a lot of answers. It's in hindsight, not a great matchup for Cleveland. Nobody's a good matchup for Golden State because they're so loaded. And that's the thing I think that's kind of stood out for us so far is even after the layoff, and there was a few minutes in Game 1 that were a little sketchy for both teams, they are playing at a different level now than we've been accustomed to seeing even from them over the last 3 seasons. They are, I don't know if they kept a little in the reserve until the playoffs and into the finals, but geez,
even in that Game 2,
blink and it's 30 points.
Even when, for as long as Cleveland was competitive in that Game 2, at halftime or whatever, I mean, I don't know about you, but I still got this. I still had the feeling that Golden State was going to pull away at some point. They withstood Cleveland's best punch, and still managed to have a lead in that. And it was just like, well, this is just a matter of time.
Right.
It feels like they hit everything.
Yeah.
Like their outside shooting is absurd.
Well, that was the crazy thing, too, and I'm looking it up because I don't know off the top of my head the score of Game 1. The Warriors only scored 113 points. Like, they scored 113 points without really playing that well.
Right.
Like, and we kind of saw that in the Game 2. It's like, oh, yeah, they put up 132 on a team that has one of the best, just overall players in the history of the game, a guy who can lock down defensively. Like, Durant got 71 points through 2 games with LeBron guarding him. Like, it's just, they are just, like you said, on another planet.
And, I mean, the bench is good. Like, I think you get so caught up in the 4 All-Stars that they have that, you forget about, like, see a guy like, David West coming off the bench, and I'm like, oh, that guy was like an all-star a few years ago. I completely forgot.
Well, there was like a huge war for his services, basically. He ends up there, and he went there for, did he go for the last month?
Andre Iguodala, you almost forget him coming into the series.
Right.
So. Just a lot of talent top to bottom.
But as to whether it's good for the NBA, I not to sit on the fence, but like I can see both sides of the story because I don't think it's. I guess it's not good for the NBA, but I do think it's worth marveling at the same time. Like, they are one of the best teams we've ever seen. Now you can debate like the ethics of that, for lack of a better term. I mean, they didn't violate any rules or anything like that. I'm not saying like they're doing anything shady, right? And that's the other thing too, is they've done a good job of building this team. Like, you get Draymond Green in the second round, you get Klay Thompson the middle of the first round. Like, even Steph Curry, to find him at, what did they get him at, like 7? Like, they did a good job of building this team, but just adding Durant is kind of like the part that makes you go, ooh, this is a little weird. But just the dominance through 14 games of the playoffs so far is just, it's something we've literally never seen before. And we're at a time where, just on the sheer number of teams, there should be more parity than ever before. It's not like the Celtics of the 60s dominating like an 8-team league. So, but there's almost less parity than there ever has been because of the super teams.
I think ideally you would have parity across the league.
Right.
You enter every season with somebody with a chance to win the finals. But that's just not realistic. That's just not realistic with the current landscape. So I'd rather have this one super team that everybody's kind of gunning for. It's a little, step above the rest, than say, I don't know, 3 or 4 teams in that next level that are all in the final 4 teams every year. I just think that would be a little more boring.
Yeah.
So, because I think this ultimately is going to balance itself out. Because there's so much emphasis on, building super teams and whatnot.
Right.
But I do think there's going to come a point where there's going to be plenty of players across the league who look at a super team and think, rather than join the super team, I want to be the one that kind of knocks takes down the empire, I guess. And I look at Russell Westbrook as kind of like a classic case of just a guy that strikes me as somebody who wants to kind of stick it to the man, I guess, just kind of take him down. So, I don't know, I think it's going to balance out in the long run.
There are built-in modifiers, too, like the salary cap. Like, they can't do this forever unless they just want to.
Yeah, there's a certain window.
Unless these guys want to keep taking pay cuts, which doesn't seem necessarily realistic. I mean, they could afford it. Like, the sneaker deals that these guys have alone set you up for your next 10 lives. So, like, I guess technically it's doable. But I just wish there was – I wish it was somebody other than LeBron. But I wish there was – again, we could look like idiots by the time the weekend rolls around. But through 2 games, it doesn't look like the Cavs belong on the same floor. Like, which is insane to think about, considering how they rolled through the Eastern Conference. But like, I wish the gap between these 2 teams was a little closer, assuming this series goes 4 or 5 games. Yeah. Like, if we sit here next week and say the NBA Finals is over, that was one-sided throughout. That's kind of a bummer. Like, it would be nice to at least have the illusion of competition.
Yeah.
A 6 or 7 game series between these 2 teams with the star power involved would be awesome. We saw it last year, but it's just, I think we're kind of seeing, like, that Durant signing was pretty big.
Yeah, just the overall talent on the floor is insane.
It is.
You go through the whole, around here, we're led to believe the Celtics are a good team, and they are a good team. Mm-hmm. Relatively speaking, matched up against the entire NBA, it's a good basketball team. Get the Eastern Conference Finals, whatever. But after watching that brand of basketball all season, and then all of a sudden watching Golden State, it's like this team is just playing on a whole different level. We've been really saying, is this good for the NBA from an entertainment value standpoint? The numbers certainly suggest that it is good for the NBA. The Associated Press cited Nielsen numbers. Game 2 Averaged 19.6 million views, which is a 5% increase from last year. Game 2 average, let's see, it's the highest for an NBA Finals Game 2 since Jordan's Bulls beat the Jazz in 1998. So.
I mean, Sunday night with that kind of star power, yeah, I'm not surprised.
And I think there's a lot of it, too, is this is kind of the rubber match of the three. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if this goes to a fourth and a fifth year of these two teams. They might have a 7-game series of 7-game series. It's pretty bonkers.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this, too. I don't think those ratings are going to go down as the series goes on either because, like, now you're tuning in for Game 3 because the series is back in Cleveland. Yeah. And so if Cleveland wins, now you're tuning in to Game 4 because, it's a series again. Golden State wins Game 3, you're tuning in to see if Golden State finishes it off. So the NBA is, even if it's a 4-game series, they have nothing to complain about.
Now, let's say that the Warriors go 16-0 in the playoffs.
Yep.
The knee-jerk reaction, the conversation that obviously is going to come from that is, are they the best team ever? Where do they rank in terms of the best team ever? These are kind of stupid exercises that just always come to light every now and then. I mean, I don't know where you stand on that. I mean, it's certainly watching them. They passed the eye test for me as far as probably the best team I've ever watched that I can recall.
Yeah, it would
with
be
the disclaimer that I'm 28 years old.
Yeah.
I don't have no recollection of watching the teams in the mid 80s or anything. Like
right.
that.
Yeah.
So.
No. The 16-0 would be the most impressive feat I've ever seen in maybe professional sports, but certainly the NBA. I would say that they'd have a pretty strong claim for it because not only you look at the fact that they would have gone 16-0, they would have beat arguably the best player in LeBron. They would have on top of however many games they won in the regular season. It's just you look at this team in 10, 15, 20 years. When we look back at them, Durant's going to be one of the best players of all time. Curry probably going to be one of the best players of all time. Green ends up in like I don't want to say he's like a Kevin McHale type, but that sort of role in terms of like the secondary guy, the role guy.
Type,
right.
That third kind of guy.
If you want to use that comparison, like Klay Thompson,
because that's
better
than
anybody that
the natural comparison now is to the 95, 96 Bulls.
And I think that's
setting
the easiest
odds for it.
And that's the easiest for you and I because that's in our age. I don't know. Like you look at this, it's like they would wipe the floor with like the '86 Celtics. I think. I don't.
100%. I mean,
I don't think that's a hot take.
I don't think so either. And I've even said this about the people that come at me and try to make a case like Larry Bird being like the best NBA player of all time. I'm like, dude, if you take everybody and take the entire talent pool of the history of the NBA and put them on the floor, or divvy up teams that way, I'm like, LeBron would school the absolute crap out of Larry Bird. It's just the fact of the matter. You know what I mean? It's not to take anything away from Larry Bird. It's just this is how players are now. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they're better.
And are the Warriors the best team relative to their time period? The game is different. It's impossible to compare.
Exactly.
This 2017 to 1967.
No hand-checking anymore.
Right. But I mean, just in pure talent alone, I think that they have as good a claim as anybody else. Just 1 to 12 or 13, whatever it is. It's just so much talent. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and really, Vegas tends to agree. I mean, ESPN reached out to a lot of Vegas bookmakers and tried to get a read on, if those two teams played on a neutral court.
The Bulls and the Warriors.
And the Warriors, yeah. And 5 of the 6 had the Warriors favored from as high as an 8-point spread to as low as a 2-point spread. But basically, it all bears out that Golden State would be the favorite going into that matchup.
In a 7-game series, the Warriors, according to Westgate via ESPN, would be minus 360. And I have no problem with that. I'm surprised that even one sportsbook said that the Bulls would be favored.
Well, I mean, I just look at the talent from top to bottom. Take away whatever they're gonna do on the court if they're in a head-to-head matchup aspect of it, but just pure talent. I think the Warriors have the most talented team I've ever seen. I mean, I think you could make the case. You said when all said and done, Durant, Curry, they're probably going to be among the top whatever NBA players of all time. I think that you can make the case that they'll probably be better than the second best player in the Bulls at that time, which was Pippen. So I don't know. I just think from a talent standpoint, it's no contest. If that makes them the best team of all time, then so be it. But
and a 7-game series, Jordan is going to steal a game or two there. It's just it's
which might be
inevitable.
the case with LeBron. Like,
right.
You know, they might.
Right. Yeah.
Like Cleveland might do the same thing. They might steal a game or two here, but at the end of the day.
But it's just across the board. You look at like the matchups. And it's like as good as Scottie Pippen was. I just feel like Kevin Durant would just.
Oh yeah.
Eat his
I
lunch.
don't even think it's any comment.
Yeah. It's wacky. And it is. One thing I do want to touch on. I hate people like. Like if LeBron comes out and complains after the series is over, either on record or through back channels, like that's a weak move because he's the guy who started this entire fad. Like we wouldn't have super teams if it wasn't for LeBron. Like this is what happens. Like this is the culture we're in, and it is pretty jarring. Like if this is a 4 or 5 game series, how far away Cleveland would be. Like there is no other. Who else do they go get in the offseason and make it feel?
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, now I think it was Chris Broussard that came out and was saying that if Cleveland gets swept in the series, even if they lose the series, that all of a sudden do you go out if you're Cleveland and maybe try and bring in like a Paul George, which I don't know. First of all, I don't know how you make that happen.
Right.
And I don't
know. More way than one.
I don't know what Cleveland has in terms of assets to get a guy like that.
Or cap room.
But also, I don't even know if that makes a difference.
Right.
Like, as good as Paul George might be, I don't know. I don't think.
Right. So maybe you go 4 or 5 games to like a 6 or 7.
Yeah, and you figure in a deal like that, you're gonna give up. I mean, again, I don't know what they have for assets, but like a Tristan Thompson or even Kevin Love or something. So
it's
you're
akin
taking
to
away
like
something.
it's akin to like a conversation we already had. Like the Celtics as opposed to the Celtics compared to the Cavs is kind of like the Cavs compared to the Warriors, where it's like
which
nothing.
Which
right.
tells you that there's the Grand Canyon there between the Warriors and the teams like the Celtics and everybody else, particularly in the Eastern Conference.
And the Celtics are much better set up to go close that gap on the Cavs than the Cavs are to do it to the Warriors, assuming this thing doesn't come back to earth, which is still possible.
Yeah, if you're team building in the NBA right now, you might as well do so with an eye towards 3 or 4 years from now. And I think that's what that could be what Danny Ainge is going for. I mean, you got the picks, you got the number 1 pick and then another Brooklyn pick next year, so maybe that's the play. I want to move on from the finals here, but one last thing. Are you putting any stock into the – I mean, I know Durant has been just sensational through the first 2 games, and LeBron hasn't been, Cleveland hasn't been. Do you put any stock whatsoever into Paul Pierce's claim that Durant is the best player in the NBA right now?
No, he just doesn't do as much as LeBron does. I don't think he makes the guys around him better. I think he's a guy who really fits in. He's going to look the best when he's got a lot of talent around him, where he doesn't necessarily have to do all the heavy lifting. Not to say that he hasn't, but I just think LeBron makes guys around him better than Durant does.
Yeah, I agree. I think life's a little bit easier for Kevin Durant in terms of just the overall talent around him. So pretty similar sentiment there. I agree with you. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here because this is another big story. We haven't talked a lot of baseball in the podcast that we've done so far.
Correct.
So I'm sure we will be in the coming months now that once the finals wrap up, the Cup wraps up. But we got some Red Sox Yankees to get into.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm a little excited for it. I think it's a good measuring stick for both teams. Red Sox going to the Bronx. First and foremost, I hate when they force the rivalry upon you.
Yeah.
Which tends to happen, particularly when they try to hype this series on a national stage. But from a talent standpoint, from where these teams are in the standings, am I wrong in thinking that this is a little something brewing here? Potentially, I think some.
Yeah.
Let me correct myself. I think the pieces are in place to potentially get the rivalry back to some sort of relevance.
Yeah,
it hasn't been. Right?
I agree. I think we're in a very similar position that we were. I mean, the Yankees obviously were much farther ahead of the Red Sox in the late '90s or mid to late '90s,
right.
And the Red Sox started to catch up. But I think we're kind of in that same incubation period where these teams are getting really good again, and I think that's probably still the best way to fan the flames of the rivalry, to have both teams playing meaningful games all season long.
Right.
So I think that helps. And both teams getting good and should be good for a while is going to be the biggest vehicle for that. And I also think I was thinking about this earlier. Taking David Ortiz out of this, a lot of people say that kind of kills that chapter of the rivalry.
Yeah. The A-Rod factor
right,
too.
It does. But David Ortiz was one of the guys you would always see around the batting cages hugging members of the Yankees. Yeah. On the eve of this Red Sox-Yankees series, he was at a fundraiser rubbing elbows with CC Sabathia and Aaron Judge. You take away that, and maybe you get back to a little bit of unfamiliarity, and maybe that kind of breeds content somewhat. Because I think he was so likable and so magnetic, it got too chummy, I think, and that's part of the reason why it wasn't as close to. There's also going to be no retirement tours anytime soon. Like there's nothing like that. So.
Yeah, you got enough young players who seemingly are going to be on these two rosters for the foreseeable future. Yeah. This could evolve over time. You know what I mean? Like this is obviously there's a little bit of smoke here. Now we'll see if there's fire. Yeah, I think you get these. You have these two foundations, and that's really where the rivalry starts. And then whether it's this year or whether it's next year, I think ultimately you're gonna get these. Whether it's a big name free agent or even some guy that comes out of left field, that just some sort of all it takes is one incident, and this whole thing could just erupt.
And you just hit on something I wanted to mention. There is an arms race looming, and that was a big thing. 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. I mean, it came to a head with the A-Rod thing, but that was. When that really got, kind of ugly, the evil empire stuff started when they were chasing after players. Now you got the 2018-19 free agent class coming up. I would imagine both of these teams are going to be in the market for a couple of those guys, whether it's a guy like Manny Machado or even Bryce Harper. Yep. You talk about how long have we heard Bryce Harper to the Yankees. Maybe you infuse a guy like that into the rivalry. Now it's got a little sauce.
The Machado thing is perfect.
Right.
I mean, the history is already
right,
there.
Yeah.
You add him into the mix.
Either one of those guys.
And the Red Sox, if they make a splash on their end, then all of a sudden you things are heating up a little bit. Also, let's not discredit the names that are here now. I mean, there's some flashy names too. Yeah. Like, hey, you look at Mookie Betts and Aaron Judge, and these guys that have the kind of superstar qualities.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if they have the demeanor to ruffle too many feathers, but at the end of the day, the big name is going to help fuel this thing, and I think there's plenty on both sides. Now, which brings me to another question coming out of this is which team is better positioned for the future? Because if you look last year or going into last season with the Red Sox where they were from a farm system standpoint, a major league talent standpoint, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a team in a better position across baseball outside of maybe the Cubs.
Yeah.
But now that we see the Yankees rebuild kind of being, the process being expedited a little bit, I think it's fair to wonder who's in a better position.
It's a really hard question to answer, too, because it comes down to pitching for me. And it's like, you look at this Yankees team, and you got like Severino has really had a nice year. Pineda's had a really nice year. But then like CC Sabathia is 40 years old and 842 pounds. And Masahiro Tanaka is getting lit up like a Christmas tree. So it's tough to say. But at the same time, the Red Sox, David Price's arm could explode at the drop of a hat. Eduardo Rodriguez might have to walk with a cane for the rest of his life at this rate. Chris Sale is a guy who's had flawless medical records his entire career. That's almost like, at this point in this day and age, when is he going to break? So there's so many question marks with the pitching staffs, I think, that really kind of is something I look at. So if I had to pick one, though, I think I would lean toward the Yankees, which is a wild change of heart almost. But, you look at that bullpen.
It's crazy how, if even the beginning of last season,
right,
as recently as then, you looked at it and you're saying the Yankees, maybe not last season, the season before that. So the Yankees are in some trouble here, both from a major league roster standpoint and what they have in the farm system. So, credit to them for building what they have.
Right, and assuming Aroldis Chapman's arm, stays attached to his body.
Which is,
you have
be nice.
Right. You have that bullpen set up for the next 5 to 6 years with Betances as well. So you have that. You can kind of work your rotation around that, kind of build up that way. They also have guys coming like Torres, Clint Frazier. They're going to be good. Whereas the Red Sox are kind of actually rounding into form now. This is what we expected to see. So I think there's more to kind of dream on in the future for the Yankees. I think in a 1 to 2 year window, I think the Red Sox are probably still a little bit better. But if we're looking 3, 4, 5 years, I think the Yankees.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Yankees. That's why I give them the edge. Flexibility.
Yep.
You look at, they have 8 guys in the top 100 in terms of prospects going to MLB pipeline. Red Sox have 2.
Right.
So,
that gives you options.
That gives you options. Yeah. The fact that they're already ahead of them in the standings speaks, like I said, the expedited rebuilding process. And also, they're gonna have money to spend.
Yeah.
We talked about already that 2018 free agent class, which is going to be probably the biggest in MLB history. But the Yankees side, they dish out some money in there, and they got a lot of the guys that they've groomed along. They use those pieces, get some other pieces. It's a scary idea if you're playing in the AL East right now.
Yeah, the Red Sox window is open wider right now, but it's going. The Yankees window has they got a better window stop that's going to keep it open.
In the short term, I still like the Red Sox roster.
Right, Price, Sale, and Porcello is tough to argue with.
But for the long term, I don't know. That goes back to why I think the rivalry something might be happening there, because these teams might not be going anywhere.
Yep.
All right. Well, we were gonna dive into a little viral breakdown. We wanted to talk about this recent skirmish.
Skirmish, sure.
For lack of a better word, a scuffle, maybe we could call it. But Rex and Rob Ryan getting into a little dust up over in Margaritaville in Nashville. The video's out there on the old interweb. What do you think? What do you think? How awesome is this?
Wasting away, you got in Margaritaville. Awesome. I think our pals at Busted Coverage did a little more research into this too. Supposedly Rex and Rob were hitting on some bachelorettes as well. Nashville is the bachelorette party capital of the world, and apparently Rex was even commenting on some feet. So really going back to his old bread and butter. But the fight itself was underwhelming, but I think it's awesome. Like, just that these guys don't care. There's something so brazen about just sitting in the front window on Broadway.
The attire, the Nationals jersey.
The Bryce Harper jersey, and then the Clemson jersey or shirt for Rob. Just sitting right in the window, right on Broadway where people are walking by, and then having no qualms about trying to throw down in the middle of
just fat and happy,
Yeah, it's I love the Ryan brothers. I know people around here kind of hate them because Rex got a lot of bravado and kind of tried to take on the Patriots. It didn't work, but credit for trying, I guess.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's refreshing. We don't see it a lot. We need more fat football coach brothers trying to kick each other's ass.
A lot of calls for them to join the WWE.
Yeah, that would make sense.
They do look like an old school 80s tag team.
They do.
Typhoon and earthquake type of deal, natural disasters.
I think one of my favorite parts about that is that fight happened Saturday afternoon, and then like 7:30 or a half hour before Game 3. Like, they showed him on the NHL Network, already in their seat, eating what looked like shepherd's pie, drinking beers after they had been outside smashing up cars.
That's what I like about it. Is the fact that they're outside smashing up cars, like they're doing this, all this pregame footage or whatever, like conducting interviews after they were just tying one on down at Margaritaville and mixing it up, a little quick melee.
How often have you had like
TV appearance right after?
It's just weird. Like I've never. I haven't really been in a bar fight, but I've been in a couple dust ups here and there where there's some pushing, some shoving, some words exchanged. You just get out. And then it's usually at the end of the night. Your night's done. These guys are like, "Now let's go. Let's go unwind by smashing a car with some sledgehammers that will head in and grab some tall boy Dos Equis." Like, it's unbelievable. These guys, they're the best. They need like a TV show. I'd watch it. A lot of it just seems like false bravado, but I can't help myself.
Yeah, all this goes back to I'm absolutely all in on this Stanley Cup in Nashville, particularly in Nashville. Like, the scene just seems awesome.
Yeah,
we touched on this a few weeks ago before they were even in the Cup. It just seems like a place that I watch it on TV and I'm like, I want to be there right now. I want in.
As somebody who's been to Nashville a couple of times, it's a place, like when we talked about it, was one of the questions in our Stanley Cup preview was, what city would you want to move to if the teams left in the playoffs? And I said Nashville, and like I just watching it is like, I've only been there twice, but I feel like a connection to that city, and just watching like Saturday where it's just Broadway is jam-packed of people. Everybody's having fun.
Guy playing the catfish. You catch him in Game 3 Game 4.
Like, that's the perfect encapsulation. Just a fat drunk guy playing a catfish.
He looked like Rob Ryan.
Right, yeah, he did.
Best thing I've ever seen.
So it looks so happy, so carefree. It's just, people are having a good time. It's very genuine.
I love the catfish.
No, like that's I think my big point here is, like, it's genuine. It's so hard to find things now in sports that are genuine, because we find like cool things and we just beat the hell out of them, where it becomes insufferable. It's just, that's the way it is with like the internet and things like that. Nashville hockey is still cool. Like, it's, for now. It'll probably get annoying at some point.
We watched it from the ground up.
Right.
Like, this isn't, it doesn't seem forced. A lot of things, this is kind of the point you're making.
Yeah.
A lot of things feel forced. This doesn't.
Right.
This feels just natural.
It feels organic. It feels natural. And it's just, like, these people have embraced it. They're having a good time. I love it. I think it's one of the better stories in sports we've had in a while.
I agree. Let's do a little show and tell and get the hell out of here. I see you got a hockey stick over there.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. Speaking of hockey.
I was wondering where that came from. And I was like, it's got to be Mike's show and tell.
I don't want to break anything. Oh, we got a hockey stick here. I was going to bring a fan to kind of to cool off hockey fans a little bit after we just got done singing hockey's praises. And
you could have used that for two situations. The fans.
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
Cooling off fans.
And I really,
went with the fans.
I do think I couldn't wheel it in. The Stanley Cup playoffs have been better than the NBA playoffs. I don't think that's really even something you can argue otherwise. The Stanley Cup final, despite these games with a lopsided final score, have been much better than the two NBA finals games. And a lot of people rushed to bang their chest when Charles Barkley, of all people, came on a couple of the telecasts and said that he prefers the NHL playoffs over the NBA playoffs, at least this year. And it's like, no duh. So I was gonna use the fan to kind of cool off hockey fans, hockey people. The fact that Charles Barkley's saying that the NHL playoffs are better than the NBA playoffs, the fact that was a big storyline tells you where hockey is right now. It's still got a ways to go.
The fact that that's the validation.
Right, right. It's just you're trying way too hard. It's a bummer. Just let it be what it is. It's been a very, very entertaining thing. It's no kidding Charles Barkley said that this was the better playoffs. It's been the better playoffs. Enjoy that. Just enjoy it. Stop trying to measuring stick stuff. It is what it is. All right. But it's been great. I've enjoyed it. I'm not trying to take away from it.
No. I agree with you. That was a painfully awkward segment with Charles Barkley. This is very you think Mike Milbury wants to talk to Charles Barkley during the intermission?
Nope.
God no. All right. I'm going completely wacky with mine. This is a Cliff Bar, which has a guy, I don't know if you can see right here, hanging from a rock.
Good job.
He actually has a safety harness. See that? So we tend to post some unique content on NESN.com, if you will. But I found myself posting a story the other day that I never dove into this world before. A rock climbing story. This guy, Alex Honnold, I think you said.
Honnold, sure.
Alex Honnold. He does free solo, and he climbs. This is basically they're calling this the greatest feat in rock climbing history.
Wow.
I don't know junk about rock climbing or really any adventure sport for that matter. I think it's nuts. But apparently this guy, he climbed El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, and that's it's a big ass rock, and did so without any safety gear.
Stupid.
So, the description of it was this guy with his, hanging from his fingertips, which, first of all, why? Why would you do that? It's impressive, don't get me wrong.
Need that rush.
I can barely climb a chain link fence without slicing my nether regions, and this guy's up there dangling from the tips. So I wanted to give him a shout out because I think it's impressive. I read this story, and usually I'd glaze over something like that, but the visual of this guy right there, this is the visual on the Cliff Bar.
Well, it's not an accurate depiction because he's got a cable.
You erase the harness, and you get yourself Alex Honnold. Honnold.
Yeah, good.
Apologize to the rock climbing community for not knowing this guy's name.
Good for you, however the hell you pronounce your name.
I don't, like I said, I don't agree with rock climbing. I think it's pretty stupid.
You need Barkley to vindicate
to each his own. So maybe we can get Barkley on. You can validate where exactly rock climbing stands in the echelon of adventure sports. I don't know. You want to do a prediction? You got any predictions you got to get off your sleeve?
Yeah, sure. Do you have any?
Yeah, I go.
All right. This is like a guitar.
It's no catfish guitar.
No.
If you were going back to the catfish guy, because I just find this story to be the most fascinating story in sports. The guy playing the catfish guitar.
Yeah.
What's a good what would you pick as an animal to play the air guitar? If you had to pick one animal.
I don't know, man. Like a fish is a good one because it's relatively flat.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a good shape.
Yeah.
I was thinking like a stingray.
Yeah, I was gonna say a seahorse. Maybe you could play a.
Yeah, the seahorse would be good. The stingray would be more of like a cello.
Yeah, true.
It's the big bass.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, good call.
I don't know.
My prediction: Penguins in 7. It's just actually I gotta stop doing this. I don't think the series will be over by the time we're back. If it goes 7 games, I think Game 7 is next Thursday. But I don't know. It feels like the Predators feels like too good of a sports story, and we can't have nice sports stories.
This is true.
So I'm going Penguins in 7.
I'll switch gears to the Belmont Stakes.
Sure.
So you haven't touched on that. The third leg of the Triple Crown. Really no pizzazz whatsoever with this whole thing. I mean, that's what happens when you don't have a horse going for the Triple Crown. I'm going to take Taprit.
Sure.
Taprit, 8-1 odds.
Wow.
So, you know, if you want to place any bets.
Get to the window.
You can, but get there quick so you can get those odds. He's a fresh horse. He didn't run on the Preakness, so makes me think his legs are just going to be
that's
powerful. A lot of power. Home track advantage in New York. Crowd's going to be electric. Taprit's your pick, 8-1. Go get it. All right. Let's get the hell out of here, huh?
Let's get out of here.
All right, got some stuff we got to do, so we're going to bounce. But thanks, everybody, for tuning into another edition of Messing Around. I'm Ricky Doyle. He's Mike Cole. Hope you had fun. If you didn't, then, well, or maybe you will next time. Who knows? But see you later.